Hello, this is how to get started on your dissertation. I'm going to make this as fast as I can, but there's quite a lot in it. Um, Bottom line is get started on your dissertation now. First thing is your proposal and your question. You really need to understand your question. Just because you've got a certain question in your proposal doesn't mean that's what you've got to do your dissertation on. Your dissertation can be on a different question to the one in your research proposal. But you've already done a fair amount of work, some thinking, so consider keeping the same question, modifying it, thinking about what you learnt from your proposal. Was it too complex or too big? Can you apply any of the insights that you got from the initial proposal? And strongly consider narrowing it. If you want to change it, if you're thinking about changing it, contact your supervisor to discuss that change. But this is an important aside. If you're thinking, oh, I'm not as interested in that question as I used to be, I don't think it's that interesting anymore. I bet it is. Once you start doing some detailed work, once you start doing some writing, once you find that you understand something that you didn't understand before and find new things out, then that will make you interested. That's the magic potion that makes you interested in it. If you look at all the things that people research, they research loads and loads of stuff that you find boring, but they don't, because when you get into it, there's people that study insects, there's people that study viruses, there's people that study taxation policy. Once you get into it, it gives it meaning. Self-incentivize by finding new things, by understanding things. So don't just think, oh, I'm not as interested in this anymore, because what you find is when you go to the new thing, you've got exactly the same problem of maintaining interest. So don't necessarily consider that a good reason to change your question. Overall, it's due sooner than you think. Deadline 10th of May 2021. Might seem a long way, but that's about 90 days away. 90 days is not a long time. So ensure that you put aside some time each week to work on it, that you produce something each week, that you do some work each week. And what we're going to cover is some of the work that you should start with. This is what I would do. I'm not saying you do exactly the same thing, but I think it's not a bad exercise. Read your research proposal, underline bits or make some notes on it. Create a kick-off document, and without notes, spend 30 minutes writing the best version of the question you can, explaining what the question means, explaining how you'll answer it, and also put a list of questions that you've got about it. All right. If you want, bring this research kick-off document to one of your supervisor. This is a document of ideas that you can come back to and refine again and again. I think this is a good way of you understanding how much you know, what you don't know, what you want to find out, and starting from a blank slate, but having read your research proposal. I think that's a good way of kicking off. Important thing is, do not think that you are done reading. Actually, you've only just begun. You did a literature review in your proposal. You're going to do a bigger literature review this time. What is a literature review? It's your understanding of all the work that these people have been doing for decades on your subject. And in your proposal, I guarantee you only scratch the surface. You're going to need a much deeper understanding. And the reading that you do in the literature review, the thinking about it, will inform the quality and insight in your dissertation. You stand on the shoulders of giants. You use existing material rather than start as if no one's ever thought about this idea or these ideas before. So an initial way to do it is create a reading list. How do you create a reading list? Well, you work out what your keywords are. You make them specific enough so the material is relevant, but not too specific that you don't find anything about the ideas underlying it are. Don't use Google. Use bit.ly/UL search. Look at the academic material. Then reread your question. Do your search. Start reading a few articles. Don't just try and make a collection. Start reading a few things. Make them what you think are good articles. So how do you read? What do you select? So the first thing is have a piece of paper with your question in front of you. All right, put it on your desk somewhere. Make sure you keep reading it. I know it sounds crazy. Why? But you ought to be able to just, here's my question, and it probably will change a little bit. Don't read everything. Work out what's important. But if you don't understand something, find out. Many years ago, when I started driving, I remember taking a turn blind, right? Not knowing what was there, and it was really scary. And I could have died, no question about it. I changed lanes blind. Something in my eye, something like that. Stupidity. You've got to check. You cannot do things blind. You'll be found out. More times than not, you'll have some sort of crash. So understand. If you don't understand it, find out. You can read a Wikipedia article if you want to, on the proviso that the Wikipedia article is probably half right or got one or two points of view. So don't read everything. Look at the titles. Look at the abstracts, which are little summaries at the start of research documents. Look at the contents pages of books. Look at the indexes for, see if the keywords in books. And then just read the stuff that you think is going to be relevant, or the stuff that you don't understand. Right? When you're reading to start with, scan pieces. And the way you do that is you read the first sentence of each paragraph. Anything that's in the slightest way well written, the first paragraph will give you the point of the paragraph. And if it's interesting, if it's relevant, read the rest of the paragraph. That way you can read things about 5 times faster than you normally would. Where it's relevant, where you don't understand, read the material in detail, make notes. Save your good references as links with the headline as well. Should have put that in with the headline as well in a reading list document. Collect some quotes, find more relevant pieces from your reading, find out other things that author has written. Go to Google Scholar and find when it's mentioned in several other articles, referenced in other articles. If you don't know how, ask, I think. But yeah, under each article in Google Scholar, it says how many times it's referenced in other articles. If you click on that, then they're often quite relevant as well. So essentially, you're reading quickly with purpose. You want to get something out of what you're reading, even, or really, especially if it's just understanding what on earth they're talking about. That's pretty important. Just as an aside, while I remember, often with research documents, a lot of time is spent on the methodology. Sometimes that's relevant if you're doing a similar methodology, but you remembering the detail of that is not important. It's often more important the discussion or the conclusion. So bear in mind, depending on what you're looking for, research method might be very interesting to you, but often it isn't. It's the discussion, at least at the early stage. So read quickly with purpose, get an understanding out of it, but also, and I know this is a bit contradictory, wander about, explore interesting ideas, unusual takes, unusual ways of looking at the world or your subject, and you will be surprised at where you find interesting material. It will not often be, it will sometimes be partly connected to it, and then you'll This is one of the exciting things about reading this material, is it sends you off on unexpected journeys and lets you understand things that you didn't even consider before. Another thing that's really important as you do your reading is, I don't know about you, but your concentration span is probably about 30 minutes, maybe up to an hour, depending on what you're reading. Do 30 minutes, take a break for 10 minutes. Maybe write about what you've read and the questions you have after your 10-minute break, and then go again. There is no point reading if nothing is going in. Don't think I'm going to do a marathon session and it will sink in. You need time to think. I need ages to think. I don't know about you. Also, as well as doing your reading list and doing your literature review and your own understanding, I'm just going to mention this actually. What are you reading for? You're not going to write down everything that you read in your final dissertation. You've only got, 6,000, 8,000 words, whatever it is. You are reading so that you understand it, so that when you write, it makes sense. You're not going to put everything you read into this final document. Some stuff is just for you for background, right? That is not necessarily relevant or is not a key point, but you still got to do it, right? Because otherwise you are driving blind. As well as doing your reading list, research your source material. So you should have some idea of what you're examining. It might be articles, transcripts, TV shows, etc., even people. So find out about your source material, find out where to get it at an early stage, save the links to it. Again, make notes next to the link so it's not just a link. And then try this. Try a mini test of reading one or two of these things and writing down your analysis of a few of them. And that will help direct your reading too, and also the understanding of what you can find out from this material. So don't leave that to the end. Try a few example pieces. What you should end up with, what you should have is a working document with ideas, references, quotes, notes, questions, and send an email of this to yourself after each day you spend working on it, so that you've got you're working on the up-to-date version. Do it version A, B, C, D, etc. So you've got 26 versions at least, and as you go, you never lose anything. You can always go back to what you did before. So what do you do with this? Well, you've got to talk it out. You've got to be able to explain it to other people. You've got to be able to discuss it with other people. And you may need ideas to keep directing you. You may need the benefit of your supervisor's wisdom. Whenever you've got anything to discuss, arrange to meet your dissertation supervisor. We expect it. We expect you to bring something once a week, really. But we are not forcing you to do it, right? You have to do the work and bring it to us. And if you have this little working document, that'll be something you can send to us to discuss. And then we can give an informed opinion and hopefully direct you or help clarify it, or even just talking about it, you will find helps explain it to you. So this is what you need to do to kick off your dissertation work. Get started on it. Get started on it now. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.